Next item is public comment on an agenda item. Is there anyone in the public that would like to have a comment on an agenda item? Please step forward, state your name.
Under 1391 West Laketon Avenue. I'm commenting on the Parks and Public Works, the CDSP 19-1114. I'm wondering about this bathhouse and maintenance building that y'all want to consider. I'm wondering if the commissioners have even been out there at all to look at it themselves and to inspect it. And I'm wondering if it has been maintained. And also, I'm interested in knowing if there could be replacements made, if there's things that need to be updated instead of building a new one. And does the quoted price include demolition and removal if this were to take place? What dollar amount has been set aside from camping fees to pay for this expenditure, and will it be enough? And if not, where will the money come from? Those I've spoken with said, what do you mean they're going to build a new bathhouse? We don't need one. It's fine. And I think some of the people are wondering why you're going to such an expense for these buildings. And I'm asking you, if the money was coming directly out of your pocket, would you be able to justify this kind of an expense? Please think twice on this, because I don't think we need it. That money can be used for other things. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sandy Kemp, 713 Fowler Street, North Muskegon. I too am concerned about the expenditure of $1 million on a new bathhouse at Pioneer Park. I've been there, and what I've experienced is that it just needs some new lighting. I didn't see anything else that needed to be in repair. I think that if they just had someone go in and look at the things that could be fixed, that it wouldn't be necessary. And also the comment to me from other community members has been that when you go camping, you don't expect a resort style restroom. You expect a bathroom that's more like rustic. Now that isn't rustic, but it isn't a luxury bathroom, but I don't think we need wet. I think that what we have there is fine if it just repaired and if it was maintained and cleaned. Sometimes it looks a little dirty, but I didn't see any repairs that absolutely needed to be repaired. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Rosie Belberti, and I live at 921 East Forest Street. And mine is just more or less a suggestion possibility for the design. I would like to know, why can't we use our college students to help introduce them to being involved in the community for designing, like making it into a contest and decide the top two or the top one who designed the best. Because we have people here that can look at the design and see if it is justifiable and if it's a good design, if it has any flaws. Why can't we do that so we can cut back on our finances for the design? I think that would be more appropriate than giving it to someone who will cost more, and we can cut back maybe even 1/3 of the cost of the design itself. Because we should start using our college campuses, our college students, as part of the participant in being involved in designing for building projects here in Muskegon County. I think it would be great. Plus, I also think that we need to go together in a tour for these bathhouses to find out what really needs to be done, and maybe we look at it differently each. So I think we maybe should take a tour together. I think it's beneficial, because what makes you think that I'm not telling the truth, or you're not telling the truth, or we're both misinterpreting things that don't really need to be fixed or fixed? And from a point that if you're wealthier, things may look really bad, and if you're just middle class or lower, it's hey, it's okay, I can deal with it. So we need to look at it that strategy as well. Thank you.
I'm Jim Riley. I live in Norton Shores. For the second time, just yesterday, I went out and I examined the park. It's a fabulous little park. I don't care if you're upper class, middle class, or lower class. Flaky paint on painted wood surfaces is just the sign of crap maintenance. It's just the sign of people who own whatever they own who don't really give a hoodle. The bathhouse in question, if it's the one I think of, there only appears to be one large one, at least on the outside, is very substantial. And for you to vote to spend $1 more on this without going out and looking at it, I think it's a terrible, terrible mistake. In 2003, I believe it was, when some of you were elected, the net pension balance was a plus, I believe, $1 million. As of the most recent CAFR, which is your annual financial report, the combination of the pension underfunding and the bonds outstanding is over $300 million. So you went in 18 years, or significantly less than that, from a profit, from a net of $1 million to a negative of $300 million. Seems to me, if there is the money to pay for this, there's got to be a far better place to put that $1 million. And without any question, if you're considering spending it, go out there and take a look. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. This time we have a public hearing for the 2020 to 2024 Muskegon County Recreation Plan.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to go into a hearing about the Muskegon County Recreation Plan. All those in favor, use the vote saying aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, this hearing is open. Bob, did you have anything you wanted to present?
Bob Lukens, Community Development Director. At this time, Commissioners, we're just opening the public hearing for public comments on any items in the recreation plan, any additions, deletions, items for consideration. So the public is welcome to comment on the recreation plan, which has been available on the county website and on the parks website, and I believe on the CVB website too, in addition to paper copies contained at the CVB. So the public hearing is open, and we welcome your comments.
I have a comment.
Commissioner Hughes.
I just have one comment, and this really, I guess, would not be for you, but next time we have a public hearing, I wish we would put a link to the plan in the agenda so that the people who get that can actually click on the link and see it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good idea.
And I guess we would also remind that this is just a hearing, so this is not a finalization for that plan. So people still do have time that they want to view that and be able to comment. There'll be more time. Any other comments?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing for the Muskegon County Recreation Plan. All those in favor, use the vote saying aye.
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 All those opposed? And that motion passes. Next, we'll move to items for consideration. First up is CDSP 1912-15. Approve the fiscal year 2020 Lakeshore Museum Center budget.
I make a
So
motion
moved.
to approve that.
It's
Support.
been moved by Commissioner Mahoney, supported by Chairman Hughes. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair. I see that the museum's executive director is here. Maybe she'd like to make some comments on it.
Yes, we'd love
I
to
know
have
there's a lot going on, and it appears
Definitely.
there's a mastodon in front of the museum.
it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for inviting me to speak. Anushka Solaire, President of the Lakeshore Museum Center. This is our 2020 budget. A couple years ago, you did approve us moving to a calendar year budget, so it's really streamlined our process, even though it's a little behind your normal budget review process. So the version that's in your packet, I hope it's fairly readable because ours is much more detailed, but I thought I would just point out a couple main items for you. The changes to the admission that are more significant from last year include we are increasing the fee to go into the Hackley and Hume sites for the 2020 season because we, one, brought in much more revenue this year than we anticipated, so we feel like we can up our goals. And so we brought in close to 70,000 so far this year at the Hackley and Hume sites, mostly due to the Civil War Gold series on TV, if you followed that. A lot of curious people about that, as well as the cruise ships. And the fact that we'll have even more cruise ships next year, we feel very confident we'll be able to meet that revenue goal of $100,000 for those sites. And then for grants, we're also looking since we are moving into the world of a stronger science center within the museum, we opened a new STEM center this year. We'll be actively seeking a couple of grants based on some leads that we have for STEM funding. So we're upping that. And then as far as the expense side to our budget, as you know, everything goes up. So the operating expenses on average were up 3 to 6% for each of those items in each lines in the budget. The overall that was for the facilities. The operating expenses, again, went up slightly, but not a whole lot. Part of that is the feasibility work we're looking to have done this year tied to our expansion. We are still in the feasibility side of that. We had budgeted $100,000 this year for work being done towards that design. In fact, we only spent $9,000 on it, so most of that work will be done at the end of this year and into next year. So you can see we just carried over that $100,000 in anticipation of that feasibility work. And then under personnel expenses, we had the largest increases there were due to adding people to our insurance plan. As you know, that is expensive, and the plan went up 6%, I believe, which overall isn't bad, but we had 10 new folks who either brought on spouses or children to our plan, so that went up significantly. And then we are looking to add 2 part-time positions in 2020 for our expansion that we have planned. So that's kind of the budget in a nutshell. Not a huge increase by any means, but we are looking to continue to grow and be a stronger and more robust resource for not only the schools that we serve for free, thanks to the millage, as well as the local community, but more and more being sought out by tour groups that are coming in. And a shout out to Bob's group, who they're bringing in lots of bus groups to see the sites that we have, as well as the cruise ships that are making Muskegon a destination.
Right.
Any questions on the budget for me?
Commissioner Laird.
So I'm wondering how you were impacted by the 911 charges.
We haven't seen that bill yet. My understanding, and we did call and ask what to expect for 2020, and they said there was for businesses, a minimum number of lines that we would get charged for, so it wouldn't be per line. Because we were budgeting, we thought it would be quite significant, and I think it's more in the ballpark of $200 or $300 is the change to our budget as a result. So it wasn't too bad.
Commissioner Skolnick.
I have 2 questions, and I sort of know the answer to one of them, but maybe you'd like to share the information. Is there any truth in the Hackley Gold thing?
We will never tell where it's buried. No, there is not. And what we do, our role as a museum is to present the facts. And so we greet every visitor, whether they're local or from out of town. And we have had a lot of out-of-state visitors coming in, spending the nights in our hotels, which is great, to learn more about the Civil War Gold. And we welcome them with a big smile, and we take them on a tour of the houses, including the basement, and say, do you see any tunnels? Do you see any vaults? And we basically just say, you can make up your mind, because there are still people, based on the programs that we've done, including one of the gentlemen from the TV show who was sitting in the front row, who said, I still believe the gold is out there. And we said, that's great. Keep bringing people to Muskegon. We're all for that. That's great. Yes, absolutely.
And the final question, which may be a little uncomfortable, but what about the park up north? I know you closed it. I'm just
No, that's a great question. So if you look at the budget, you'll see the different classes that we have in the budget. So we are maintaining the park right now, but we are working with Whitehall Schools, and they are going to be taking over the park through the lease with the Whitehall Township in July. So we still have expenses shown on our budget to go through July for basic, keeping the geothermal running and that sort of thing. And then we're also looking to take basically the Muskegon Heritage Museum that's on Western. We're blending with them, and so we're not absorbing them as a 501c3 that they currently are, but they are deeding their assets to us, because the Muskegon is kind of convoluted, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but the Muskegon Heritage Association that started that museum will remain its own entity, but they're getting out of the museum business because the directors that have been growing that fabulous museum for 10 years are retiring. Of the 15 museums that are in Muskegon County, that's the only one that is a true extension of what we collect and the stories that we interpret about Muskegon County. So we've agreed we would accept their assets into our collection, but not until our millage is renewed and we have voter approval to spend money on that, even though they have done an amazing job to make sure they are self-sustaining. So we're taking on a business that not only pays for itself, but they have $1 million endowment. So we don't have any reservations about taking over the management of that site right now.
Will Whitehall Schools operate that just for the school, or will that be a public facility?
You ask the best questions, Commissioner. They are intending, originally when we started conversations with them, they were thinking about an environmental themed school, like Grand Rapids has several, and that would serve the Whitehall schools. And then the more they looked into it, there was a huge amount of interest from schools countywide to bring students out there for a field trip that would be based on curriculum that is both going to be for the environment as well as history. So we will remain a partner providing some history related programs out there, but they're really looking to have 2 teachers on site that serve as what I would consider science lab teachers, and they will coordinate field trips for any school with a real focus. They're hoping on getting all the inner city schools out there for some time out in the field. So it's a really good endeavor that they're going to do.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll vote. All those in favor, use the vote saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And that motion passes. Next up is CD SP 1912-16. Approve the increase in Heritage Landing and Union Depot rental fees.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Commissioner Foster, supported by Commissioner Snyder. Any questions or discussion?
I had a question.
Commissioner Hughes.
What the parking? Not applicable. You're going to keep it the same as it is, or you're not going to have any?
Parking.
Carpenter lot. Is that gone now?
Yes.
That's the dog park.
No longer owns the carpenter
Okay, that's
lot.
what I was thinking. Okay. There was something else, I guess. I guess I'm all set. I noticed this said late fees. Do we have trouble with people being late on paying?
We have one festival that's tardy often.
Okay. I just wondered. I don't need to know who it is. I just wondered what the situation was there.
We eventually do get paid, but we'd like to give them an incentive to pay more quickly.
So we're going to penalize them if they don't.
Indeed.
I love that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yes. Does this affect the what's the word, competitiveness at all?
Not necessarily. People that rent Heritage Landing rent it because of the scenic beauty of the facility and the centralized location of the facility. So it's the gem of Muskegon County, and festivals love entertaining their guests there.
Any other questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor use the vote saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes. Next up is CDSP 1912-17. Approve the increase in Heritage Landing docking fees and potable water intake and gray water, black water discharge fees.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Commissioner Foster, supported by Commissioner Mahoney. Any questions or discussion? Commissioner Hughes.
I have a question, Bob. I'm concerned about the Blackwater discharge. Is
Yes.
that tested before it's discharged?
It is not. It's sanitary waste from the ships that is pumped into a holding tank and then ejected into the sanitary sewer system.
Okay.
At Heritage Landing. There's about a 10,000 gallon tank at the landing, underneath the landing, that's in effect a sump pump, basically.
So, and
and-
none of these come from the ocean, correct?
No. I mean, they start originally in the ocean and in the Caribbean. Many of them are based out of the Caribbean and South America, and actually La Champlain's from France.
Okay.
But by the time they get into our lakes, their ballast has been removed.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
La Champlain is a very modern ship too, so it has ballast treatment
Okay, perfect.
before
Thank
it
you.
ejects the ballast.
Commissioner Scoden.
The 10,000 gallon tank, there's not a direct connection to the wastewater system?
No, there's a pump station, and actually the administrator could probably answer that question better than I.
No, they done some work on it, so I would have to defer to our engineer, Steve Fink, if he would know.
Yeah, it's basically a underground tank that's pumped out like a sump pump almost.
Okay.
Steve Fink, Public Works. Out near the point of the peninsula, there are two large lids that can be lifted, and that gives you gravity access to the sewage system. So the cruise ship pumps into that opening, which runs to a duplex sump pump system just north of the restroom building, and from there it is discharged into the city of Muskegon sewer system.
Anyone else?
Told you he could explain it
Commissioner
better
Hovey
than me.
Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yes, actually, my intent was to ask the competitive question on this issue. How does this affect our competitiveness with other ports
We're the most competitive port around.
after we make these increases?
Even after this, we
great.
will be. Yeah, the Port of Muskegon and the Heritage Landing dock specifically is the model by which other dock areas, cruise ship dock areas in the state of Michigan look up to, honestly. The tourism director, Dave Lorenz, has mentioned our dock and our facility in a number of different talks and presentations that he gives.
And do we know what would the increase in revenue bring? Do you know?
It would bring, I don't have the number offhand with me, but it would be a substantial increase in revenues. We have 35 calls this year, as opposed to, I think we had 17 in 19. So we're seeing a lot more traffic now from the cruise ship lines that are coming into the Great Lakes.
And that increased revenue would be in general fund or
No, that would go
transfer?
towards the Heritage Landing Fund.
Heritage Line?
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll vote. All those in favor use a vote of saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And that motion passes. Next up is item 7, which was old business that was tabled from November 19th, which is CD SP 1911-14, authorized award of a cost reimbursable not to exceed contract to stop pettit waste for $101,663 for design and construction oversight services for the Pioneer Park Bathhouse and Maintenance Building replacement projects, and authorize the board chair to sign.
I make a motion to reject the contract.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and supported to reject the contract. Any discussion?
I'm fine. I'm fine with that, but I'd suggest, because of the public interest in this thing, that we have, maybe we could arrange for a Matt's, one of the small buses. Let's all go up there, everybody, and look at the thing. And when people come in and complain about it, we'll at least know what. I've only seen it once. I've been up there once, and not this year. So I know it's old. I know, just so, Bob, this is an enterprise fund. Is that correct?
It is, yes, Commissioner.
So that means that's not tax money being
It's
spent.
not an enterprise fund.
It's a special revenue fund.
Oh, I thought it was an enterprise fund.
You can, yes, it makes a difference.
But it doesn't have any general fund support.
It has no general fund support.
No.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not. It's neutral impact.
So one of the things with this bathhouse, and I don't know if it's a good idea, and I need to look at it myself now. But we want Muskegon, when visitors come here, we want them to have a positive image. And if this isn't doing it, maybe we need to remodel it or rebuild it or do something to it. I don't know. But I think there's enough interest in this that we need to do that before we move ahead.
If I could make a brief comment about your consideration of this motion. There are 3 bathhouses out at Pioneer Park. 2 of them, what we call the little bathhouse and the beach bathhouse, would be demolished if a new bathhouse were to be built. The large bathhouse out there just needs some remodeling, as some people here have said. And that's the plan moving forward, you know, to remodel it, give it a fresh coat of paint, and some other repairs. I believe it needs a hot water heater in there too. So there's a few minor repairs for the large bathhouse, but the small bathhouses are just not up to snuff. So what this would do would be, it would give us 2 large bathhouses that would be able to better accommodate our guests out of Pioneer Park. But we'd welcome you to come out to Pioneer to take a look at the entire facility. I know a number of you have been out there before, and it's a great place. And I agree with you, Commissioner, that it is another gem for Muskegon County. It's a fantastic place for visitors to experience.
And I just wanted to add on this also because I'm glad Bob explained that too, because sometimes you have to understand what's really going on out there, even though it might seem expensive. But you know, we can repair one bathhouse, but we're getting rid of 2 smaller. And this $1 million is not a complete bathhouse. Part of it is a bathhouse, and the other is the maintenance building. So there are 2 buildings that are actually being built. We're not putting $1 million into one bathhouse. It's going into the whole entire project. So, and the other thing is that you have to look at the people who actually use this. And over the years, we've been taking surveys, and the constant request from people that actually use this is a new bathhouse. And that's the major request that comes from the people that use that. And that's been over the years. And over the years, we have been able to make these increases that we've been making through these parks. And that's really been the only request. So we're also trying to put some return into these requests and to the faithful people that continue to keep using this and make it a little bit better for what the requests that they've had through surveys over the years. Commissioner Hubby Wright.
Yes, Mr. Lukens, could you explain for us and the public the funding source? It's not general fund. It is.
Right.
Okay.
It's from park fees. That's how the revenues are generated for the parks. We also do apply for and receive grants. We've received a number of grants over the years from a variety of different DNR funds. Most recently, we've had some playground work done at Pioneer. It has a brand new ADA accessible playground. That was a few years back,
Yeah.
three years back,
Yeah,
maybe.
about 3 or 4 years.
And then Minert Park also has a new playground that was the result of a DNR grant. And that's also somewhat ADA accessible too. So, you know, we try to go after grants as much as possible to fund some of these projects, but the DNR hasn't been looking too favorably on bathhouse and restroom type of facilities. They look more at land acquisition, trail building, those sorts of things. And you know, that changes with the administrations. So you just have to kind of keep the pulse of the DNR be aware of the pulse of the DNR when you're going after these grants. And, we try to accommodate our guests as best we can. We've made a number of improvements over the past 5-6 years that have really made a difference at the parks, and the guests are noticing it too. So again, as Commissioner Nash said, the bathhouse is one of the top requests.
Commissioner Hughes.
Excuse me.
Since I made the motion to reject this, I'd like to explain that. For one thing, $100,000 to design a new bathhouse by a company that just designed 2 bathhouses seems like an awful lot of money when you already know how to do it. And although I don't deny that we probably need to do some work on our bathhouses, I find it hard to believe that we want to put $100,000 into the design of a bathhouse when everybody knows exactly what it takes for a bathhouse. You have to have a place to take a shower, you have to take it to go to the bathroom, you have to be able to wash your hands and things like that. We all know what needs to be in there. We've got one that we're happy with now that just needs a little bit of remodeling. I hate to spend $100,000 on this and then have to build it. This has got nothing to do with building it. This is just a picture of what we want it to look like. And I think you could probably get somebody who would build both of them together and eliminate or almost eliminate this cost in itself. So that's why I made the motion to reject this.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Foster.
I would agree with the chairman. By refusing the bids, we're not stopping what needs to be done. We're just going to look for a better financial way to do it, a more fiscally responsible way to do it. Thank you.
Just one more question.
Commissioner Skolnick.
How many campsites are at Pioneer? Is Pioneer Park's our most popular park?
Yes, Pioneer has 235, I believe, and Minard has, I think, 85, if I'm not mistaken. And then Blue Lake has about 25.
So with 235 campsites, and it's full during the summer, not all summer, but I mean, it's full quite often.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially there's hundreds and hundreds of people using that every day.
Oh, yes. When the campground's full, there's typically, maybe 1,000 people, 1,200 people there at a time.
I guess I have another question now. Bob, I have another question since Bob brought this up. Do they hook their sewers up to, is there something to hook their sewers up when they're trailers?
There are
or
no
is there
sewers
dump sites?
at the sites at Pioneer,
Okay.
but there are dump stations there.
Oh, okay.
That's
2
the
dump
typical
stations.
arrangement.
Okay, so that's normal. So they can use their
Yes.
home basically. Okay.
Now Minard has sewer hookups.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little different up there, and that's why we charge a bit more at Minor.
Okay, thank you.
You discussed
Just a
Commissioner
quick
Mahoney.
thing, and I have been to Pioneer Park several times, and you're right. The old bathrooms, the small ones, need to be gone.
I agree.
They're in terrible shape. So we need not only to remodel the current larger one, but we need a new larger one to accommodate 1,000 people in a park. And I agree with Commissioner Skolnick. We want to put our best foot forward whenever someone visits Muskegon County, because we want them to come back. And if we are going to put up a porta-john and call that good enough, that's not going to work. Not in today's world. Thank you.
And I just want to make one more point too. This offer is not just for design of just one bathhouse. This is design of 2 buildings, and it's also including oversight of the construction. So there's a lot more involved in this, and that's why it costs a lot more. But we just have to consider that. Any other comments? All right, roll call, please.
So this is to reject the motion.
Correct.
Commissioner Skolnick? Yes. Commissioner Snyder?
No.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Hubby Wright?
No.
Chairman Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry?
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney?
No.
No.
5 yes. Excuse me, 4 no.
All right, that motion is rejected. Next, we'll move to new business. Any new business to come before this committee? Any public comments? Public comments come before this committee.
My name is Larry Hausman, and I live in Northern Shores. This is going to seem like I'm just trying to beat a dead horse, and I have hearing aids, and they're pretty good ones. I can hear people that are talking into this mic just fine, but I cannot. It doesn't matter where, matter where I sit. It's just so much. I go back and listen to the video sometime just to see what the questions were. I can hear what all the answers are, but it's just nice to know what the questions were too. Can we get the mics closer to the people that are doing the talking? I mean, am I the only one? Because I can hear perfectly the people that are talking here. So that's all.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I try to put it in my mouth.
Jim Riley, Norton Shores. I would agree with Larry. I have much better hearing than he does, and it's almost impossible to hear some of you from pretty much anywhere here. I don't know if you have. I work in radio. A lot of you have the ability, or at least we do, to turn the volume up. But if you're not going to speak loud enough for us to hear, get rid of them. Save the money. But I know a lot of money was spent on it, and it was to be for the benefit of the people. I know that many people in the meetings that I've been to over the last few months have requested, I think very respectfully, that you listen to them and make this technology work for the people, not just for yourselves. But I would like to add one other thing. Sheriff Poulin in the last 2 months has made some presentations on various things. He had photographs. He provided you with tremendous amount of information in advance. I listened to the presentation made a month ago about this bathhouse issue. There was no mention of 2 bathhouses, small ones, being taken down and being replaced by a large one. Only the fact that there's been a bit of a brouhaha here. Were the really good questions, by the way, that came out. It would seem to me, especially when we're talking about significant expenses, that whoever is making that presentation should provide the information to you in very specific, because it shocks me. I'm sitting here saying, there's a discussion now to take down 2 bathhouses. It's the first time that's come up. Also, if there is, I know that we travel a lot. I've had a boat. We've gone to marinas. We go to camping places and hike. The biggest complaint I've heard from people who are camping is about cleanliness. I don't know what's going on at our parks. I don't know about the maintenance. But if in fact there are surveys, then you should all have those surveys. And you should see what the questions were asked. And you should see how many people answered them. But just to float out that the fact that there have been surveys demanding this stuff, that's worthless. Let's see those surveys. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Josefovich. I live in Montague. I didn't come here planning to make a comment today. However, I have an actual RV rental company in town, so I thought I kind of wanted to give you a fresh perspective on this. I rent RVs through Airbnb, and we have a website, and we deliver them to our county parks in the area and our state parks as well. And I really truly believe in Muskegon as a place to be, especially for camping. And I've shared that with now hundreds of people that have used my service. And a couple of things that come to mind when thinking about building a new bathhouse is even something to the effect of the income level of the people that visit our parks. A lot of the people that I rent to, they expect nice, clean bathrooms. If they're not new, then they at least have to be clean. Certainly, cleaner bathrooms are something that I look for when I go camping. And if I'm reading reviews online of a park and the bathrooms are stated that they're not clean, it's something that I generally try to stay away from because, yes, RVs have bathrooms, but it's always a luxury to use the facilities at whatever campground you're staying at. So while I'm not educated enough in whether or not we do need the new bathhouse, I will say from my experience, the people that I tend to serve have expectations of clean and nice facilities to use. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would move we adjourn.
All those, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, use vote saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.